Emerging markets all seem to be under pressure right now, and Turkey is certainly no exception. There is a constant devaluation of the currencies, and Turkey and Argentina lead the pack with no apparent end in sight. This has yet to be rectified, and all that they can do is increase interest rates or throw money at the problem. Nothing like this will ever fix these issues. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today our focus is on Turkey yet again. I've been showing you this, I've been showing you Argentina, just did a video on South Africa. I'm covering all the emerging markets and everything that has happened here. We're looking at China in a bear market here at this time. Global systemically important banks in a bear market. We can see that there is weakness all over the world except for a few points. I want to highlight Turkey today and the continued weakness that we can see right here. Let's begin by taking a look at a few charts out of Trading Economics, great website. Government debt to GDP. Now this is significantly lower than what you were used to compared to the US, for example, all right? But you need to look at the total value of government debt, which has increased, but debt to GDP is down over the last 10 years. So I wanted to note that right off the bat. I think it's important. And you look at the stock market, it has been fluctuating. This is going back to, let's say, about 2013 or so, up until present day. It is up. However, over the last year, it has been down quite significantly from 12,000 down to approximately 9,000 or so. So that is a big drop there. At the same time, we see the weakness in the currency. So we should see, in a nominal sense, this stock market coming up, but doesn't appear to be that way in the last little while. Now, comparing the US dollar to the Turkish lira, obviously we've seen the weakness. Just wanted to highlight the fact that as of this recording, it's at about 6.5. This has been moving all over the place. You can see that it was at 7. I mean, depends on when you look at it, but definitely this has weakened over the last little while versus the US dollar. It's no different than comparing that to any of these other emerging market currencies. They're all suffering for the most part. Then you look at the inflation rate, which has picked up, currently sitting at about 18%. This inflation rate affects the people in that country. They don't feel it today. They may not feel it tomorrow, but eventually they do feel it. 17, 18% inflation is impossible to ignore. And even if you're seeing 10% inflation, which is a low point on this chart here, it's still very high. You cannot avoid that, and it does affect you. Now, some countries are used to having 10% inflation, and it's not as much of a big deal as that would be for other economies, but we also have to get into how they calculate it. It's not like the US, where the inflation rate is definitely 100% higher than what they admit, because they use the core inflation rate, which does not factor in many of the reasons why inflation is high in the first place, but that's a whole nother topic. Let's continue on by looking at the central bank balance sheet. It is up and down clearly, but we can see that over the years it has moved up quite a bit. And it doesn't really matter the numbers that we're looking at. All I wanted to show you is that they have been increasing the amount of money that they've been printing, doing what all central banks do, and that is print money. I showed you this chart in a previous video, but just wanted to cover it yet again to show you and highlight to you that the Turkish lira is down 42% this year, and that's versus the US dollar. Of course, it is a significant decline no matter how you look at that, and I had just done the video on the South African rand. That is down almost 16%. So these currencies here are looking very, very weak, and it is not a good thing, because we need to see continuous growth that takes place in these countries. Now, it would be good for their exports to have weak currencies, but I'm seeing the weak currencies, and I'm seeing a general slowdown in the global economy. So those are not good at all. Looking at this, Turkey in trouble. This is out of Bloomberg, by the way. Consumer inflation accelerated more than expected last month. Turkish consumer inflation, that's the black line. Core inflation is the orange, and food prices are the green. It doesn't matter how you look at it. You can see that throughout 2018, they've been picking up. And in fact, since 2016, that low point there, it has definitely been rising quite a bit. All right, so those are facts that we need to keep our eyes on, looking at Turkey, but also for other countries as well. Now, this here is out of the Washington Post. It's quite detailed, quite long. I just want to touch on a couple points from it. If you will just give me just a minute, I'll really race through it. 10 years after the worst financial panic since the 1930s, growing debt burdens in key developing economies are fueling fears of a new crisis that could spread far beyond the disruption sweeping Turkey. The loss of investor confidence in the Turkish lira, which has surrendered more than 40% of its value this year, is only a preview of debt problems that could engulf countries such as Brazil, South Africa, Russia, and Indonesia. And I've been showing you all of these currencies that have been battered and bruised throughout 2018 alone. Turkey is not the last one. That's according to this economics professor. Turkey is the beginning. And that, to me, tells us what's going on here. They're talking about Argentina, about the bailout, 50 billion, and I think that this could really spill out into several other countries, and that is very much a concern of mine. I know it is yours as well, and many other analysts out there are talking about this as well. All I'm trying to do is just show you the charts, show you the articles, and then you can make these decisions for yourself. I'm not saying where it's necessarily going to be tomorrow, but it's not looking good. Okay, so as I said, there's more detail in this article if you want to read it for yourself, but I'm just going to show you this last article. It's talking about Greece, and there's a reason why I wanted to mention Greece. I'm actually not going to cover the article itself, though you can if you're interested in what's going on in Greece right now. And they're basically just saying how heavily burdened they are and the situation that they're in. But this is what worries me, and I don't see, for some strange reason, I do not see anybody else talking about this. Greece is the perfect example. I've brought this up in interviews that I've done. I've made many videos about it, and I will continue to mention it throughout my videos for the foreseeable future. And that is, when a country is heavily in debt, this debt, according to some people, doesn't mean anything. However, you can ask the people of Greece how they feel about that. When they're indebted, they have to sell off their assets in order to be able to make up for their shortfall. Now, some people might say, who cares? That's fine. You could say that. However, one by one, these assets are being transferred to central banks, to the technocratic elite, and to the very wealthy people, the billionaires, the, royalty, and so on. That's what we see. Greek islands were sold off, airports were sold off, infrastructure sold off, buildings, companies, all going into the hands of the elite. Why? Too much debt. So we need to really get our heads straight on what's happening. Greece has been the perfect example, the model of what they want to do. Heavily burden a country, put them into so much debt, and then take the assets for pennies on the dollar. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, it helps to support this channel. I see a lot of views, I see a lot of subscribers, but I do not see enough thumbs up. If you can give me 2 thumbs up, 3 thumbs up, give me 4 thumbs up and 2 toes up. I need to see those toes as well. I really appreciate that. And if you want the financial education you were not taught in schools, these 2 books have it all. When you read these 2 books, you get all the information, all right? You get everything you need to know from the foundation, the history, and how to make money, and so much more. Check them out at the link in the description. Enough ranting. If you want the audiobook version instead, check it out, themoneygps.com. Over there, I've got the free e-course. I've got so much stuff. Definitely check out my website, themoneygps.com.